All right. Hey, Daniel, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, thanks, bro. Thanks for having me on today. We're gonna have some fun.
Yeah. Hey, what all have you been getting into lately?
Traveling around the country. Been speaking. That's amazing. Was just in LA seeing my second dad. He had COVID and double pneumonia and almost
Oh,
died in the hospital.
how's he doing?
Uh, he's
He
doing good.
recovering?
Man, he looks great. He looks awesome.
That's good.
So I was just with Dan Rodheimer in Vegas from WWE.
Oh, really?
So that was awesome. Spent some
How's
time out
Dan?
there.
How's Dan doing these days?
Dan's amazing. He just won the prelims for U.S. Congress, so he's going to the general now, and
Nice.
yeah, he's going against somebody who's tough. It's going to be hard to beat, but he's he's a rock star. He's
Yeah.
a champ, so I'm excited. My fiance made us some mango pie, so I'm super excited. Had some for breakfast,
Nice.
yummy, and yeah, everything's going amazing. Building a couple more schools this year. Having fun building schools. We have 3 schools this last year, and we had over 330 kids, 60 graduating next
What
month.
kind of what kind of school is it, Daniel?
So it's like a life skills vocational rehab school. It's 6th through 12th grade. So we take kids that are, let's say, not interested in the regular school world. Like we teach them the life skills that you and I needed to get to do resumes, financial
Right.
literacy, budgeting, like the stuff that most people never get taught until they have to learn in their 20s or 30s.
Right. Okay. That's
Yeah, so
cool.
it's
That's
fun.
admirable. And I definitely didn't see a Congress run for Rodheimer there. That's different.
Hey, I'm saying, let me tell you, I've spent a lot of time with him over the last year. We put his name on one of our schools, and he's got a huge heart. Like, people see the entertainment side and
Mm.
the tough guy and all that, but he's got an amazing, huge heart, and I'm just super blessed to be able to, spend time with him and just see what he wants to do for this country and add
Yeah.
so much value.
Nice. Definitely. And if people aren't familiar, he was on season 4, Tough Enough with you.
Yep, on season
I,
4, I whooped him. It's good.
that's right.
But you know what's crazy is he was a millionaire when he came on Tough Enough. He didn't actually want to
Really?
be Tough Enough, yeah, because it was costing him so much money.
Wow.
He was into real estate, and he's built businesses. He's got a restaurant now. It's just it's amazing to be able to see
Yeah.
just people don't see behind the scenes, right? Because most pro
Yeah.
wrestlers aren't multimillionaires when they go into pro wrestling.
I guess you just never really know someone, do you?
You never know until you build that relationship.
I when I was doing some research for the interview, I went back to watch Tough Enough 4, and I got a confession. I accidentally watched 3 episodes of Tough Enough 3 before I realized I was on the wrong season. I'm like, where is Daniel at?
Right? Oh man, yeah, that
And
was
speaking of Tough Enough 3, your journey actually started with Tough Enough 3. Is that right?
yeah. So many people they have no clue. I think I mentioned it once or twice before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried out and I had some stuff going on in my life, and I couldn't make the dates. It wouldn't work for me. So, Dave Meltzer's wife and Dave, when Tough Enough 4 was coming out, they were like, "Hey, you should do this," and it was a bit, it was great. This is the reason why. At the end of the day, obviously there was more, pay, but what I really loved is it was on SmackDown versus on MTV.
Right.
So being on UPN on Thursday nights was huge because that was the real fan base
Yeah.
versus getting a MTV fan base.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. Those you guys had like an 8-week segment with the SmackDown. Those were awesome segments actually.
Yeah, they did
So
some
when
crazy stuff to us.
Yeah. So you were season 3. How far did you make it into season 3 before you were like, yeah, I can't do this?
I just did the tryout. I actually didn't even start with season 3. So that was in Colorado. I believe it was in Denver, Colorado, were the tryouts.
And you were just like, well, I'm gonna go for. I couldn't make 3, but I'm gonna go for 4.
Yep.
Cool. Hey, so what inspired you for your Tough Enough run? Like, where you're like, you know what, I want to be a wrestler, because you're an MMA fighter. I think you were training MMA before wrestling, right?
Yep.
I know you did some fights after the WWF, but I wasn't sure you were training. I wanted to kind of run through some of those segments that you guys did. Like,
Cool.
when you go for the first SmackDown segment, is that a setup? Like, they send you guys into the locker room, Is it a setup from the beginning to have the Big Show go in there and throw a temper tantrum?
So I had no clue. What was crazy about the Tough Enoughs is they didn't tell us what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at how do I prepare myself for whatever is possible. I trained really hard physically, emotionally,
Right.
spiritually, mentally. I was doing speeches every single day. I was cutting promos, like the Snap Crackle Pop thing I did.
Yeah.
I started looking at how do I create a personality and character. I mean, The Miz already had his because he was been doing pro wrestling for a few years.
Right.
So I didn't know what everybody had per se to fuel their personality.
Right.
I look at things a lot differently now, like strategy wise. I would start studying other people and picking their brain on what they think, but I didn't know how to do that at the point. So, when I build relationships now, I pick people's brains, right? Like I was just with one of the presidents of a casino last week or this week, and I'm picking his brain. I'm like, hey, what would you do in this? What do you think about this? And guy was really informative, super super wise on and I asked him out to lunch. I was like, hey, can I take you out to lunch? And he was like, yeah, sure. So it's interesting how I've learned how to learn, but we had no clue what was going on every single week.
Yeah. The Big Show, he singled you out and he kind of pushed you. What was going through your mind at this point? Going through all that, you popped right back up in his face or whatever. But
you see how fast I popped back up?
Yeah.
I was up like in a jiffy. I was just in really good shape. I didn't understand why they would do stuff like this. Obviously, It's entertainment, but this was coming down to being real. Yeah. And somebody pushing me in. That could have been really detrimental to my health.
Yeah.
So it was. It was interesting to get to know Big Show or Paul later on, and a bunch of the other guys to be able to see what they do and who they are. And, they lose it once in a while. If it was a fight, I would have taken them out. This thing at the end of the day, somebody like that would never get into a cage because once they get on the ground or once their knees are blown out, they're done. Yeah, so did he get one up on me? Sure. Did I forgive him for him losing his cool? Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of easy to get one up on someone though when you have no clue what's coming. Like,
yeah, super easy
out of nowhere, and you're back there. You're just part of the ride, no clue what's going on. How long? It was like 8 weeks of you guys being on SmackDown. Was you guys ever able to use the locker room, or was that a running thing where they were like, we don't want you guys in the locker room?
So part of the time we were able to use it. Most time we had our own space. They put us in our own locker room at one point. So, it is what it is. When they say the locker room, there's multiple locker rooms in the arenas. So we always had a space to, get dressed and do different things. But a lot of time it was with just the Tough Enough guys.
What did Al Snow or any of the other contestants have to say about you guys first running with the Big Show? How soon are you guys in the ring after that? Because you guys had the segment with Big Show where he body slammed everybody on that same episode, I believe. How soon after that were you in the ring?
That was, I think, was that the first week? That was the first week, yeah. We were training in the ring the whole entire time period, but it's different, training and we were training in the WWE ring on SmackDown shows too, because we helped build it. And then we went in there and started practicing.
Right.
But this thing, we were all green except for the Miz, everybody else, Miz was the one that's been doing this for years. So there's a different mindset with him on how to strategize, how to build relationships, how to do different things.
Yeah. They said that you guys actually didn't know how to take a body slam yet. Like when the Big Show came out and did the body slam, they said that you guys hadn't actually been trained for that yet. Is that true?
No, like we don't do body slams in MMA. You know what I'm saying? Like I slam people.
Well,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's a different world. It wasn't the norm of what I was used to.
Yeah. I figured they would have maybe showed you guys how to take a body slam if that was the segment they were going to do, though.
You would think that they would teach us, and they were teaching us, but it doesn't mean we know how to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
they were showing us how to do certain things, and it's not, for me and a lot of other guys from what I've seen, it's not just, hey, let's just learn how to take a body slam and you know how to do it.
Right.
So, I was super blessed to be able to, have really good coaches, but we didn't know how to do most of this stuff.
Yeah. They said that originally they thought about having the Big Show chop you guys instead of the body slams.
Yeah, I mean, he could have done anything at the end of the day. That probably would have been better.
Right.
You sell a little bit more when you get a mitt across your chest. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
When I say mitt, like I have a 14-inch ring finger. And that's the ring I wear. He has I heard like 32 or 33. So his fingers are double the size of mine. So it's like crazy. A big old baseball mitt hand that weighs like 100 pounds, like coming across your chest. Like,
yeah.
Not really 100 pounds, probably like 40, but it's big. It's real big.
You could tell that he was getting kind of tired because I think at this point there's about 8 of you that he's body slamming everyone, and you could tell this rep, you could tell he was getting a little tired there towards the end of those body slams.
Yep.
Did you guys know when they were like cut a promo on the Big Show? Did you know he was going to come out? Probably kind of figured at least.
No, that's the thing we didn't think of is they were like obviously we weren't thinking. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We weren't thinking at all about, what was next, what was going to happen. So, we did. And then I started thinking after that, okay, so if we're calling people out and doing different things, they're going to get these people involved every single week.
Right. So week 2 was the Kurt Angle episode where originally they're really trying to set you guys up to make it like an easy run for Kurt. And they got you guys out there doing sprints. They got you guys out there stuffing you with pasta, doing more sprints. They do a little contest. Kurt comes out, he does this thing, and then you guys do like a push-up contest. Do you think that contest was rigged? Because when I'm looking at it, your form looked better than the guy that actually won it. And it just seemed
Chris Naraki. Oh yeah. I was in way better shape, bro. Way better shape. But what they said is in the back, they said, get the blonde guy out. They meant him blonde. He was blondish. I was more blonde, obviously. So they mixed up the refs mixed up the guy. What was great is not great, but Chris wrestled him first and got 3 of his ribs broken. So, that's not good for Chris.
No.
But Kurt did know that I was the one that won, so I should have, he offered everybody else looked at me like, what? You are crazy.
Yeah.
So, it's a blessing to be able to be prepared. Yeah, it's like the kids in my school. I talk to them a lot of time. Be prepared for what you're going to come up to. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have the right reading skills or math skills or whatever that is, you're not going to be prepared for maybe a position that's going to be offered to you.
Yeah. Let me read a quote from Conrad. When Conrad was talking to Bruce Pritchard. He said, "You guys knew he had a wrestling background and an MMA background. Are you in the back? Are you in gorilla position? Do you think, oh shit, this ain't a good idea?" Bruce replies, "Well, it's a terrible idea. We told Kurt, you do one guy and that's it. Nobody else. We showed him, this guy hasn't been running. This guy hasn't been eating his pasta. Don't fuck with them. We said, leave them alone. If you win one, if they win, blow them up in the ring, but you only do one guy." So Kurt goes off script, and so they rig it to get you out of the ring. So then he wrestles the other guy. Then Kurt goes off script, and he's like, anybody else, or I forget what he says, basically challenges you. You raise your hand. Is any of the other contestants on the verge of accepting his challenge?
No way. They looked at me like I was crazy. I mean, you watch their faces if you watch it, right? Like, even Dan Rodeheimer's like, has the biggest laugh, and he's like, you're nuts kind of look. So But yeah, I trained with guys at that level. It doesn't mean I was at that level for wrestling, but I trained with guys that were that good in wrestling. Danny Shade was one of my coaches who wrestled Kurt to go to the Olympics in '96 and lost by a couple points. Right. So at the end of the day, I know how good these guys are, but MMA world is different. And what they said was it wasn't amateur wrestling. What they stated was there was no striking. So it's a big difference on no striking versus versus amateur wrestling, which is no key locks, no chokes, none of that stuff.
I heard a couple different stories, but do they actually ring into the ref's earpiece and tell them to make the count? I heard one story that they did, another that they hadn't. Does he actually get a message in his earpiece?
So Kurt doesn't, but the ref did. Yeah, what I heard, the refs they said tap him out quick. I wasn't on my back. That's one camera angle you see, the original camera angle that they let out, because they have two or three hard cameras, and then they have 2 moving cameras, I believe, on those days. I think it's 3 hard cameras, 2 moving cameras, so 5 total cameras, plus you have cameras in the back. Right. So it's very strategic on how they move things and how they create the image of what they want to be shown. Yeah. So it's pretty awesome.
That it's really an awkward situation for you, because at the same time they're like, all right, this is wrestling, we're supposed to try to put people over, but at the same time, you're in here trying to win a contract, nobody's telling you anything. Kurt just sees a challenge, so you get him in the Kimura and you lock him in. You don't believe you wasn't down though, right, for the count. They just did that to save Kurt.
I think if they wouldn't have, Kurt's arm would have come off. I mean, think about if Kurt would have tapped. Right. What would that have done? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's a whole different world at that point. Or if his arm would have come off. Like, what if I snapped his shoulder? Yeah. Like, what would happen then?
Kurt talked about that they actually considered having you guys wrestle and him to do the job for you. Do you believe they were ever considering that?
To have us wrestle?
And have you go over on him?
No, I don't think.
He just seems so bitter about all of it. I just couldn't see him really agreeing to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he would. I think he's an angry human. Just angry. Yeah, I mean, people got a lot of anger. Yeah. And he's one with a lot of anger. He could do so much more in this world, I mean, winning Olympics is an amazing thing, but at the end of the day, he could use that in so many more ways than just wrestling. Like, he could be he could be like our what is that what is it called? The guy that has a shield, the superhero that they create, the American guy.
Captain America.
There we go. He could be our Captain America. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's his all-American thing. I think he could have done a lot more, but he didn't. But it's, it's an impressive career.
Yeah. What's the reaction like when you get backstage from the other contestants after you just had your little run-in with Kurt?
I don't think people really understood what happened till the next couple days, and then they were like, I don't even remember what they said. I don't think they said much.
They didn't understand the submission.
Yeah, I mean, none of them were MMA guys, so it's a different world.
Yeah. Dana White, I heard Dana White had reached out maybe to have a fight between you two. Is there anything that went down there? Was there any talks with Dana White?
Yeah, there was talks. I talked to Dana White twice. And he's an amazing guy, really smart, and he offered me a contract, but at the end of the day, contracts aren't good with him. They're super tough. Like, what he's done with Reebok and what he's done now, I don't agree with it. I think that we need to take care of our athletes, and he's really not taking care of them. He's just using them, just like other organizations.
Yeah, there's a lot of fighters that lost big money when Reebok came to town. I know Reebok goes by how many fights you've had in the UFC. So if you're it's like first 5, first 10, 15. It's a pay scale like that, and it's not good for newcomers. That's for sure.
No, it's not good at all. And newcomers that hustle could go get, that fought in Japan or Europe or wherever else. They already have sponsors, but when you limit the sponsor and the dollars and everything else, it's great for the company. But I don't see Reebok long term doing that. They know they're not taking care of athletes compared to what athletes could go out and work their butts off for. I think they shouldn't make it mandatory. I think they should open it up to whatever's possible. If people want Reebok, cool, you can go get Reebok. And I think a majority would. But at the end of the day, if somebody comes in, Nike or somebody else, why not let people go earn a little more money and take care of their family?
Yeah. And you can't tell me those fight kits are selling very well. I remember when they first came out, they were spelling all the fighters' names wrong. It was an embarrassment.
Wow, I didn't even see that. Okay.
Yeah, there was a bunch of fighters' names they were spelling wrong, like Aldo, and just simple stuff that they should have known how to spell that they were printing off. And
wow.
I've seen ESPN too. Before ESPN finally picked up the UFC, they put a picture of Rafael dos Anjos on there, and it said Conor McGregor on it. They were really messing up real bad in the beginning too, before they got some people. Well, I mean, it's still amusing to hear ESPN try to talk about MMA. They still really don't have MMA guys. They got football guys trying to talk about MMA, and it's just not coming out right. Hey, another one of your segments is you won an arm wrestling contest against all the guys. The Miz kind of he spits in his hand before he starts because he knows he's screwed. What were your thoughts about that, the arm wrestling contest?
I laughed at him. I made a joke out of it. I mean, you can play entertainment, but I played entertainment when you see my face.
Yeah.
So, let's play. I mean, it's great that, what he did. I loved it. I love when those guys built up something. When they talk smack, when they cut really good promos. I love that because it added a lot of value to our Tough Enough.
Oh, definitely. After you beat The Miz, you had to arm wrestle, I think it was Ryback, right? And you beat him in arm wrestling. You're not a small guy. You're athletic and muscular, but he's
just a different size, bro.
You know what I mean? So I was kind of. What were you thinking?
I don't know, but he's just a bigger guy. He's a bigger human. He lifts a lot of weights. I was more of an MMA, I was 200 and, probably 220, 230, something like that. He's probably 280, and 4 inches shorter, 3 inches shorter than me. So it's just a different, different type of human built. Now, I beat him in a race. We did a mile, not a mile, but we did I don't know if it was one lap or a couple laps. I don't know if it was a full mile, half mile, but we did a run every morning, and I beat him every single morning. I mean, I beat everybody every single morning.
Right.
Not one person in 8 weeks beat me.
Nice.
So I was in shape. I was in training shape, and I was ready to go. It's just a different world to be in, an MMA shape, which is, and a pro wrestling shape. And then there's a mixture, I think, of, okay, I get to go, 15 minutes of push. In pro wrestling, it's okay, let's work this a lot of the time. And it's an amazing art.
Yeah. Are you having any contact with Vince McMahon or anybody backstage? Did you ever talk to him? Did you ever run?
Yes. I said hi to him once. He he liked what I was doing, said hi to Hulk Hogan, said, even Kurt, congratulated me. So we, Triple H, I don't think really liked me for some reason. But is what it is.
Triple H has a history of not really liking people. It seems he's had a history of burying people.
Well, he maybe doesn't like himself.
Maybe. You guys had another segment, which was Tori Wilson's sex test, they called it. But after the big show and stuff, you just had to know they were setting you up here, though, right?
Oh yeah. Why do you think I was in a white suit with flowers and Puder bear?
Oh man, they sent out what? They sent out Mae Young. Do you still have any post-traumatic stress from that? Or are you good now?
No, I actually never kissed her. If you look at camera angles, it looks like I did.
Really?
Everybody else did gruesome stuff, and I actually dipped her in front of the camera. It looks like I did, but I never actually kissed her, and I still won because I treated her like she should have been treated. Everybody else did dumb stuff. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
I'm pretty sure I think think Tori might have said some of the guys actually slipped her some tongue.
They could have. I mean, it's it's an accomplishment, I guess.
You had another segment. You had like a jousting match. What was your experience like with that? You made it look really easy, so obviously your strategy going into this match helped you.
Yeah. So I've done a little conceptual, like I'm pretty good on with weapons per se.
Yeah.
So conceptually, I knew what
you like
to do.
mess around with like nunchucks or anything like that?
As a kid, I played with a bunch of different things. A lot more of more guns at this point because I'm a deputy sheriff and
Right.
I don't play with them. We take them very seriously, but
Right.
we train properly with it. But I've trained knife fighting and different things like that. So I knew conceptually how to get him off his rocker, and it worked. And I just smiled and I made it look simple.
On one of the episodes, they asked you guys, they were like, who would you vote off? And everybody picked you. Did you see it going that way? What did you think when everyone of them picked you? I remember what's his dude kind of giving you the side eye because you picked him, and it was like, dude, you just picked me too. Like,
well, I had to pick somebody, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's I should have picked myself, actually. It should have been funny. Like, I should have picked myself, been like, here's the deal, guys. You should vote me off or I'm gonna win. Like, at the end of the day, you better think. So, I didn't even think about I could do that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they wouldn't have allowed me to, but it was great. It's awesome to have everybody go against you because they knew that I was their toughest opponent.
Yeah. They had you guys do another segment where you all dressed up and tried to flirt with Bob Holly. Was Bob legit freaking out here? Or does he know it's coming? Is he in on it?
He's probably in on it, but I think he was really freaking out on like what we wore and what he had to do. I think he would have rather done like a whooping, a wrestling match than get sweet talked.
Your one of your last one is you have a boxing match with The Miz. I tell you what, The Miz is really lucky that it was 1 minute rounds and not 90-second rounds because he would blow his cardio at the end. But why did they go through so much to try to make this look like a legit thing, and then they're asking the crowd who won? I figured if you're going to bring in the commission, you're going to bring in a ref, why didn't they have judges too?
Well, because it wasn't legit, number one. We didn't have to get a boxing license from what I remember. So, it was they're trying to make wrestling look legit. Like, like everybody, 15, 20 years ago, everybody thought it was legit. So it's just it's a different world, and the more they can bring it in, the better they look, I guess. I have no clue.
I was wondering, do you have any heat with like Bruce Pritchard? Because he seems to, I don't know, it seems personal for him or something when he talks about you.
I think he's buddies with Kurt. So
that makes sense. That makes sense.
So I don't know. I don't know if I've even talked to him before. I think I might have been on one of his shows once or talked to him once, but I think that's it. I don't even remember it. So, couldn't have been that good.
There was a couple times where he talked about Kurt, and he said Kurt would beat you in an MMA fight, and then another. I don't have the quotes. But
didn't he put me over? Didn't he put me over once? Didn't he put me over once somewhere, or maybe that was somebody else?
What is it now?
Did he put me over and make me look good once?
Bruce?
Yeah, I don't know. I have so much that goes on in my life at this point that I'm like, people are like, hey, did you hear about this? I'm like, no, didn't hear about it.
I feel you. Asking me stuff about 2004.
Right. Well, I mean, just, in the last 5-10 years too, people still talk about it, or, what Kurt and I did make top 10. It's amazing. I love it. I absolutely love it. But I just don't hear about it. I don't hear about it all the time.
Yeah. I actually got out of wrestling when WCW went under. Like that was my thing, was WCW. And I watched like the Invasion angle. And so cool. I actually caught your stuff through YouTube clips, and then I went back and watched the Tough Enough. And yeah, it was It is a very interesting story, actually. And you go from a work to a shoot to, I don't know, I don't have the lingo down like everyone does, but I found it a really crazy story, and I started like watching your interviews and stuff.
Yep. Awesome. Amazing. Yeah, it's a fun world. I mean, both people ask. I've gotten asked, so many times, would you enjoy more, wrestling or fighting? And I said, you know what, both of them had an amazing thing. The fighting made me a legit athlete, and the wrestling really supported me with the entertainment that went over into the fighting too.
Yeah.
So both of them were super fun. I just like them for different reasons, and it gave me experiences and really perspective of life to not only how I build my companies today, but how I run my nonprofit and what I do in this world. It gave me ability to push myself mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, to be able to understand and grow. And I know, there's some couple of people that I'm good friends with, and most of them not. It's because they don't align with what I want in my life and who I want in my life. So, but it was a blessing to be a part of both worlds.
What was harder on the body, MMA or wrestling?
I would say pro wrestling was. MMA, I could control a lot more of how I got, beat up per se. So yeah, it was wrestling for sure.
You were in the Royal Rumble. How much of that is scripted, the Royal Rumble? Like, do you know, like, hey, you're coming in for 120 seconds, or like, how much is that scripted?
No, they said go.
How do you know when to go over, like, to be eliminated?
When they toss my ass out.
Oh, they're like, hey, you're going over now. Basically, really.
So
what? When you went in for the Royal Rumble, it seemed kind of unprofessional the way those guys acted. You had like Bob Holly, I think was it Eddie Guerrero, was it Benoit?
Yep.
And those guys just came in, chopped you, and I don't know, it just seemed unprofessional to me. What were your thoughts on that? I don't know. It just seemed like they invested all this time into you and then actually made no effort to get you over. I felt like you had a lot of momentum, and then it just seemed like they didn't really put the effort in.
Yeah, they didn't. I mean, here's the thing. What they did was super, unethical, unprofessional to, just what they did. My dad was there, and he was like, "This is uncalled for," in a sport or how they are supposed to take care of people. At the end of the day, karma's karma. I mean, stuff happens to people, and I look at it, I'm like, well, that's not the kind of life that I want. It's great that I saw that. It's great that I experienced it from my point of view now, because I would never treat people like that. And Eddie and Chris are passed away, and Hardcore Holly's not a good human from my point of view. So it is what it is. Like, they get to live their own life, and they choose their own life, and people play into the politics and whatever else to be cool and to fit in, and it's complete bullshit on how corporations let other people bully and hurt other people. And I mean, things are changing in this world. I'm blessed that what happens this last couple of weeks is happening, because it's going to be shifting our whole entire world, from education to policy to politics to culture to law enforcement to everything. So yeah.
Do you think, because I know Kurt Angle, what he said it was just a promo, but he's like, you guys are going to make $1 million. I hate each and every one of you for it. And, do you think that was the saltiness from some of the people? Because, I mean, you were probably, that first year of your contract, you were probably started in at more than maybe like a lot of what the other guys were making.
Yeah.
And they were promoting you as the $1 million winner. Do you think that some of the saltiness came from there?
Yeah, I think it definitely did. The people value the money versus what they get to do. They work so hard to get to where they're at, and then they're wondering why they don't get as much. I mean, it's like one competition, and so they could have, looked at it and said, "Wow, let's build this kid because he's got potential, and guess what? He's going to build me."
Right.
So they're not smart enough to understand, from my perspective, The athletes are more about themselves, but if they were just to give and support and help younger people grow, people would remember them for that. Like when I go to when I go to Gang Grill's training center here in South Florida, he trains everybody with the utmost respect, with the ability to mentor and coach and build them, and it's really good culture down there. The best I've ever seen at a wrestling school. So, it's interesting to see how they build them at the lower level like that, and then they go up, and things shift because the backstabbing or whatever cultural BS kicks in.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine treating coworkers the way some of these wrestlers. I know they're all kind of competing with one another, but I couldn't imagine really treating a coworker like that the way they do sometimes from the stuff you've heard of them crapping in people's bags and just different stuff that they've done.
Yep.
Hey man, anything else on your mind? Anything else you want to talk about?
Bro, if you're ever in South Florida, love to have you come down to one of our schools, talk to our kids. We could do, have some of them on your podcast here and interview them. And I appreciate you, bro. Thanks. You guys can check me out at danielpuder.com, mylifemypower.org. Anybody ever wants to support on transforming lives, or if you need your life transformed somehow, let me know. Go to our site.
Sounds good. Hey, what kind of podcast are you doing? You said you got a podcast?
Yeah. Mine's called Significance Breeds Success.
Would you interview a wide variety of people, or what do you focus on?
Ton of people. People that are in the limelight, like we have Dr. Oz. We have some interesting people with books. A lot of different people to. I don't run it. Eddie runs it. He was helping us get this together. So. Yeah. I mean, it's if you or somebody else wants to be on it, send him your stuff, and he goes through with a couple of people that support me. We've had a lot of investors on lately. I want to know about the market, where it's going, how they're making impact, how they're building companies, what the future of technology is. So we're doing it. If it adds value to people, if people are somehow making impact in their community, I want to know how they're doing it so people can hear the good news side of what's going on in this world.
Good deal, man. Interesting. Hey, thanks for coming on my show today, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
Hey, this was a lot of fun, buddy. Hey, take care of yourself. I'll holler at you later.
You too. Later, bro.
Later, bro.